One employee installed an AI tool. That single decision gave hackers a walk-in path to the production systems behind millions of websites. I'm going to break down exactly how it happened and what you need to know to check in your own business later in this video. Plus, DeepSeek just released an open source model that matches GPT 5.5 at a fraction of the cost. And Stanford researchers found that most businesses are massively overpaying for AI agents. This is your weekly AI news roundup. Let me break it all down. Welcome to AI in Business. My name is James Anderson, and this is your weekly AI news roundup. Every week, I condense all the biggest and latest AI stories into what actually matters for your business. No jargon, no hype, just what you need to know. Let's get into it. First up, massive news, DeepSeek just released their V4 model, and there's 3 reasons why business owners should pay attention. DeepSeek version 4 Pro charges about $1.74 per million input tokens. V4 Flash is even cheaper at around 14 cents. Cheap as chips, as they say in my hometown. That is a fraction of what OpenAI and Anthropic charge for comparable models. So if you're building AI into your business, these price points fundamentally change your ROI calculations. And we obviously love that. We like the competition, we like the prices coming down, and we like getting value for our money in AI. But remember, with any of these frontier models, security and control of your data is absolutely paramount. The second part why this is so good is the performance. According to the benchmarks, V4 Pro actually matches Anthropic Claude Opus 4.6, which is largely known as the sort of strongest model out there at the minute. It's also better than OpenAI's GPT 5.4 and Google Gemini's 3.1, which, to be honest, it's not exactly hard. So that puts it alongside the best models in the world at just a fraction of the price. And because it's open source, you can actually download it, modify it, and run it on your own servers. That matters enormously for businesses concerned about data privacy. Obviously, you're going to need quite a chunky bit of hardware to be able to run it, but it is possible. And also, this is what we believe is the future of AI, having locally hosted models where you have essentially full control over your data in your business. So the third part is efficiency. V4 can handle 1 million tokens of context, which, you know, it's not new because obviously Opus has been doing this as well, and also Sonnet on Anthropic, but it shows that people are catching up. And that 1 million token of context, that's enough to fit your entire code base and years of customers' data in a single session. But you might not want to do that. And it only uses around 27% of the computing power of the previous version. So for Flash, it's even better, just 10% of the computing power, because it's obviously a more slightly smaller model. Now here's where it fits into the bigger picture. This is exactly the type of development that we like to talk about on this channel. Open source models is where we feel the most comfortable. Frontier models are amazing, don't get me wrong. I use it for lots of aspects of my business, but the open source models is really the passion of this channel and really where we feel like the future of AI is, being able to run these things offline and basically give you this sort of powerful resource to help run your business essentially. So obviously you can run this on your own hardware, but you're going to need pretty chunky hardware. But what you might want to do is maybe host a decent GPU online and then put the model on there and then run it. Okay, granted it's on somebody else's server, but it is a step closer rather than sending all your data to, you know, the likes of Anthropic and OpenAI. On this channel, we don't like sending any sensitive data to any of the big boys. So the only caveat, I suppose, is obviously that DeepSeek is a Chinese company and you need to factor in geopolitical considerations. But the technical capability and the price point make it genuinely impressive and also genuinely interesting as an alternative to Claude, ChatGPT, because they are expensive, you know, and if you want to use these things, especially in smaller businesses, every penny counts. So I think it's definitely worth looking at. We're going to be plugging it in and playing it into some of our tools that we've built for our business, and let's see, and we'll come back with some reports and see how it actually is, because it's brand spanking new. So quick one before I get into the next story. If you're finding this content useful, please hit the subscribe button, because obviously I break this down every single week and I don't want you to miss anything important. And I'm curious about your AI budget now in your business. Are you paying for AI tools? How much are you spending per month? Drop it in the comments below, because I'm really interested in getting a little sort of mini survey and seeing what people are actually paying, because it's really good to get a bit of a feeler out there, because obviously if I believe we can bring economies into our network and into you guys as subscribers, then I'm definitely going to try and push content to show that. The AI swarm tax. Wow. Sounds dangerous. Now, this story could save you money. So Stanford University researchers coined a new term called the AI swarm tax. It refers to the unnecessary computational premium that businesses pay for multi-agent AI systems, where single-agent systems often deliver equal or better performance. So here is the finding. On complex reasoning tasks, single-agent systems match or outperform multi-agent setups when both use the same thinking token budget. The multi-agent gains often come from using more resources, not smarter architecture. So why does this matter? Because actually multi-agent systems come with added baggage, longer reasoning traces, more API calls, higher latency, and of course higher costs. A single agent wins on total cost of ownership, fewer calls, lower latency, and easier debugging. So what we do is, the way I build, which I've talked about on this channel, is I kind of do like micro layer building and coding, where I just like lay a little slice on the sandwich and then just check it out, debug it, test it, and then I pull it into my main on GitHub. So I do this like in really micro stages, because I'm obviously trying to learn. I also like to audit and check everything. And I think when you start bringing in agents, swarms agents, I think it's a great buzzword. And I think if you're obviously an advanced software developer, it might work for you. But for me, I like to have control. And because I'm building most of the stuff for, myself, our business, other clients' businesses, we always try to do things thorough and not rush things. And I think when you start bringing in agents and swarms of agents, yes, it's amazing because you can just do huge amounts of tasks. But obviously you do lose a bit of quality control. And also, potentially, it's obviously going to cost you a lot more money, which is the whole point of this. So I think for your business, the advice is pretty clear. If you're building AI for tasks like data analysis, customer queries, or operational automation, do not default to swarms just because they sound and look really impressive. And you can tell all your mates you've been like doing swarms of AI agents and they're going to think you're like an absolute legend. Test single agents first. This is what I recommend. And obviously, you'll save a load of money compared to your existing builds. And I believe you have a lot more control and a lot more debugging. And if a single agent matches performance at lower costs, then that's your winner, chicken dinner. Claude's AI shrinkflation explained. So the next story is important if you use Claude or rely on any AI tools for business tasks. So for several weeks, and I'm pretty sure everybody's noticed this, including myself, Claude has been absolutely so users, including myself, have been reporting that Claude was actually getting worse and worse and less capable on sustained reasoning, more prone to hallucinations and wasteful with tokens. People called it AI shrinkflation. I called it getting my eyes ripped out by Anthropic. So it's quite funny because Anthropic actually published a post-mortem explaining exactly what happened. The model weights themselves were unchanged. The problem was in what they call harnesses, the software infrastructure around the models. The overlap and change apparently caused these issues, and a bug was meant to clear old thinking from idle sessions, ended up running every turn, causing Claude to forget prior reasoning. So a session caching bug actually made things even worse on top of that, and a system prompt change meant to reduce verbosity actually degraded coding quality when combined with other issues. So that basically means that it was an absolute disaster to use, even on Opus 4.6 as it was then. So I noticed this, and actually I started switching more and more across to GPT 5.4 because I was getting seriously pissed off with it. It was like talking to my 2-year-old son, to be honest. I think he was probably better at coding during this period of time. And Anthropic, they probably lost a lot of business from it, because I saw on the Reddit channels that a lot of people jumped ship and they were like, nah, not happy about this. But what I will say is they did recover it, I think, because they give me credit for 75 quid, 75 nice bit of buns. Yeah, so I spent that already because the API is ridiculously expensive, but it was a nice gesture. But then they released Opus 4.7, which is really good, actually. It's really good. So they've kind of, in my eyes, regained the throne. But what I will say is that I still use both of them. I still use 5.5, which is, again, it's pretty early. I'm still playing about with that. But 4.7 is great. So a key insight for the business is that AI tools aren't static. Even when the core model does not change, the infrastructure around it can definitely affect performance, which is what happened. So always check your outputs regularly. I think what happens is when you use these tools, you actually start to feel the responses and the quality. It's more of like a sense rather than a like, shouting at your screen going, you're an absolute hate you or whatever, but you start to sense, you're doing small things and it's like, what? Why am I asking you 3 times to fix this? Like, what's going on, mate? So obviously keep alternatives ready, and that's what I do. I'm split between the two. I really like GPT 5.4. I know lots of people say 5.2, 5.3 was better, but I like 5.4. It works for me and my approach to coding, where, as I say, I'm just doing just chips away, little improvements, little features. It takes a load of time. I mean, some of the stuff I've been working on is like 7 or 8 months, just to get things rolling. But I feel comfortable and, I feel like it's built on solid foundations. The 85.5 trust gap. Now, this is the stat of the week. Cisco surveyed their major enterprise customers and found that 85% are running AI agent pilot programs, but only 5% have actually deployed those agents into full production. And that is an 80-point gap between running a test and actually shipping it. Cisco's president called trust the biggest impediment to scaled adoption. And he made an important distinction. There's a difference between delegating and trusted delegation. Delegating too much to AI too quickly could lead to bankruptcy, or even worse, if there's worse than that in business. But trusted delegating, where you have the right guardrails in place, could lead to market dominance. And that's obviously the flip side of the coin, isn't it? So I think this is what matters for SMEs. The enterprises with massive budgets and security teams are struggling to trust AI agents. But that tells you something about where we actually are with this technology. It's not ready to run your entire business autonomously, but it is ready to handle specific bounded tasks if you set it up properly. And I think this is what we say on this channel. The opportunity is the little boys, the little lads like us, we can fight with the big boys because we can obviously implement these things faster. We can move faster. We can obviously maximize our potential of whatever we're doing, process, sales, marketing, whatever that might be, delivery, project delivery. And we can sort of close that gap between these big boys with the big budgets and the little boys who can just move quick. But we want to move safely and quickly. So I think this is a pretty good lesson. Start small with AI agents, test them on low risk tasks like email triage or scheduling summaries before scaling up, and then define the clear rules, audit outputs, and always keep humans in the loop for decisions that matter. Quick hits now. OpenAI released GPT 5.5, calling it their smartest model yet. I am still testing it. I'm still on GPT 5.4 at the moment, actually, because I'm just finishing off a few tasks and then I'm going to swap over so I can really see how it rolls. Key improvements include multi-step reasoning, agentic capabilities, and token efficiencies, which means hopefully lower costs. It scored 82.7% on the terminal bench, beating Anthropic's Claude Mythos preview. Not sure, I'm not 100% sure on these benchmarks. I like to just play about with them, and I give them what I like to call the Jimmy Anderson benchmark, which is how much I like them. And at the minute, the Anthropic Opus 4.7 is probably leading on the Jimmy Anderson benchmark test, which is absolutely theoretical and just basically made up by me. OpenAI is positioning itself as a step towards a super app that combines ChatGPT, Codex, and AI browser into one service. Worth testing in ChatGPT Pro for tasks like drafting proposals or analyzing data. But as always, start small and measure the results before any commitment. Google launched Deep Research and Deep Research Max agents. They can search the web and your private data through a single API call. Powerful, but a word of caution: if you connect these agents to your private data, make sure you understand what stays private and what gets used for training. Actually, what I would do is not connect it to private data. It's the easiest way to do it. The convenience comes with obviously the security trade-offs. If you do that, read the terms carefully, but I'm going to be giving this a blast because I think there is a bit of a gap between these tools, these LLMs, and the research and connected to the web function. And I think probably this is where Google is going to have the edge, because essentially they own the internet, so they should have an edge. And also, our main man, Tim Cook, is stepping down as Apple's CEO. Not quite as cool as Steve Jobs, but this guy looks like he's probably a little bit cooler. John Turners is taking over, and the pressure is on for John. Pressure is on for John, that rhymes, to launch a significant AI product. So, I don't know. I mean, Apple is like kind of living in a prison anyway. I don't really use any Apple products anymore apart from my laptop. Laptop is amazing. The hardware is amazing, but the phones and stuff, not for me. But let's see. Let's wait and see what happens. I'm sure, you know, they've got loads of cash, and I'm sure they're gonna spunk some of that cash and make some nice cool tools. So let's keep an eye out for them. So one to watch this week, I've got two stories that point in the same direction, and the direction I've been advocating and will continue to advocate on this channel. First, OpenAI launched Privacy Filter, an open source on-device model that detects and redacts personally identifiable information. Wow, that's a mouthful. Before your data ever reaches a cloud server. It's released under Apache 2.0, that's not the Apache helicopter, and it's on Hugging Face. So that basically means that anyone can use it, modify it, and integrate it into their workflows. How very kind. OpenAI. So if you handle sensitive customer data, this tool lets you sanitize that data locally before it leaves your systems. Open source, runs on your machine, no data going anywhere. That is exactly the type of tools that I love to see, and it's nice to see OpenAI actually having a think about that, because the risk for the frontier models is the open source models and the privacy. So these guys need to do something to bridge that gap where we get some security control, because big companies and even small companies and even personal people are going to start reducing the amount of data they share. Like when Facebook started, everybody stuck everything on there, their dog's date of birth, their favorite type of breakfast they like, their job, and then all of a sudden, over the whatever 20 years it's been going, everybody's just scaled it all back because they realized that Facebook is, cheers for your data, mate, I'm just going to sell you loads of stuff. So yeah, let's just bear that in mind. I think it's great that OpenAI are considering this, but let's see. I haven't tested it yet, but I will have a play about with it. It's funny because I'm actually building a tool at the minute for a client who's basically got a huge amount of data. They've got 35,000 rows on an Excel file. It's about 25 megabytes. It took me about 5 minutes just to open the Excel file. And essentially it's all their customer data for the contracts and stuff that they have or have had in the past. So what I actually did was we wanted to sort of summarize it all, check it all, and just do a bit of a sample run to see what the quality of the data was. So what I did was I actually built a local tool which anonymized all the data and basically sanitized it all. And then I used Sonnet 4.6 to run it, and it was actually really expensive, to be honest, which I suppose is no real surprise when you start getting into enterprise APIs and stuff. Starting to get a bit chunky, but the ROI for the client is significant. So I actually built my own tool. So it's nice to see potentially we'll have some of these tools, but then do you trust the tool? It's a bit of a rabbit hole, isn't it? Second, Google's Gemini can now run on a single air-gapped server. Cirruscale is delivering it as a full private disconnected appliance. Pull the plug and it vanishes. No internet connection, no data leaving your premises. For businesses in healthcare, finance, and government, with strict data residency requirements, this makes frontier AI accessible in ways it was not before. I think I need to do a bit more research about this one because it's just a news headline. I need to actually see how sovereign your data will be using this sort of thing. I mean, I suppose if you can't trust Google, who can you trust really? Because everybody in industry and personal and business uses some form of Google product and your data goes on there. So you know, anyway, let's see. So both these stories point to the same trend. The industry is finally catching up to what I've been saying. AI works best when your data stays under your control, whether it's open source, tools you can run locally, or air-gapped servers that never touch the internet. The future for AI business is private, local, and under your ownership. Vercel breach. One AI tool, one employee, and one complete security compromise. And this is the first story I mentioned from the start, and it's the most important security story this week. Vercel, the cloud platform behind Next.js and millions of weekly NPM downloads, suffered a breach. And the way it happened should make every business owner sit up. One employee installed an AI tool called context.ai. They used their corporate Google Workspace account and they clicked allow all on the OAuth permission to prompt. That single action gave the AI tool broad access to their email, drive, calendar. Then Context AI itself was breached. Attackers stole the OAuth token, used it to access the employee Google's workspace, and then from there escalated into Vercel's production environment. How joyous! They accessed internal systems and customer environment variables. Now I use Vercel. Obviously, as soon as I use this, recycled all of my environmental variables on there just to make sure. I think it was quite a small batch that they actually got in, but obviously the attack chain that they used is simple and terrifying. And one person adopted one AI tool and the tool got compromised and the attackers walked through an open door into the company's production system. And as one security researcher put it, they didn't break in, they actually just walked in. So what I would suggest you do if you're on Vercel, I'm sure you've probably already done it anyway. If you are using it, just make sure you go and rotate all your environmental variables in your settings on Vercel. And obviously, hopefully Vercel won't do it again. Vercel, I'm not sure. I like Vercel. It sounds a bit more exotic. And in your business, obviously, you know, giving IT governance and training to your team, you know, explaining about things like OAuth, you know, if you don't know what that is, it's basically where you get a little pop-up when you sign in through your Google account. You know, staff, you should have some controls in there for your IT and policies and all the rest of it. So, you know, make sure you check and review them, because obviously in the age of AI, when everything's moving so fast, these little gaps can cause you huge problems. So anyway, this is exactly the kind of thing that I help business owners navigate, working out which AI tools to adopt, how to set them up securely, and where the risks are that you might not see. If you're trying to figure out where AI fits into your business without opening yourself up to the kind of breach that I just described, I offer a free AI audit call where we can go through your operations together, have a bit of a chat, no sales pitch, just some practical advice from someone who builds and tests these tools every day. The link is in the description. So the Distilled takeaway this week, the AI landscape is splitting in two directions. On one side, more powerful models at lower costs, open source alternatives that match the frontier, and privacy tools to keep your data local. On the other side, real security risks and a massive trust gap in agent deployment, and reminders that even the best tools can degrade without warning. The businesses that win will be the ones that build simply and safely and keep their data securely under their control, verify everything, and never click allow all without reading the fine print. So if that was useful, please subscribe, because I break this down every single week, and I've got explainer videos for going into different specific tools and things that I use and stacks and all that sort of cool stuff. And the core purpose of this channel basically stays the same, and that's to help you as a business owner increase your AI literacy so you can use it to your advantage. No hype, no jargon, just what you need to know. See you next week.